Okay, everybody, so let's make some salt dough. You have got your bowl, a spoon. It can be any kind of spoon. I like a big wooden spoon, so you can use just a regular spoon though if you want. I have a cutting board under here. That's going to come in really handy in a little bit. So a cutting board, you could, if you don't have a cutting board, a plate or a baking tray would also work. So I've got my the flour and the salt, and both of these were I measured them when I gave them away, so you don't have to measure anything. All you have to do is just add the salt, and then you're going to add the flour. Just dump it in, and we're going to keep these bags, okay? Don't throw them away. You're going to actually be able to use them in just a little bit, and you'll see how. And then we've got half a cup of water here. You are probably not going to need to use all of that water. So I'm going to get a little bit closer here so that you can all see what I'm doing. I'm going to focus. And there we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is while the salt and the flour are dry and they're in the bowl, you can just mix them up. Get them kind of mixed together. And then little by little, we're going to add water. And you might not have to add all of that water. Okay, we're just going to add little by little. If you add the whole thing, part of it's going to end up being super dry and the rest is going to be really drippy. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water. And then I like using the wrong side of my spoon to mix things around. I've found that it's actually better to do it that way. So you can do it that way if you want. You're going to mix it around, and then I'm going to add a little bit more. You're going to add a little by little until you end up with this nice dough. Now you don't want the dough to be super soft because we're trying to make something out of it. So you want it to just be dough, right? You don't want it super soft. And just like you see in the PowerPoint and everywhere, you need to not do this. If there is not an adult at home, then you need to wait. Please do not do this project unless there is an adult at home to supervise. You can see that something like this would be very tempting for an animal or a smaller child to get a hold of, and I don't want that to happen. So if you don't have an adult at home to help supervise this project, you need to wait until someone's at home to help you, just in case you have a big spill or to help just with it. Okay, you can see I'm adding a little bit more water. My cat is actually sitting on the table right now as I'm doing this. She's very interested, and there's a lot of salt in this, even though this is non-toxic because it's just flour and salt. If my cat were to get a hold of it and eat some of it, that salt, it would be bad for her. So that's why you need an adult at home, okay? And also, when we're done with this dough, it looks a lot like cookie dough, but it is not good to eat. So that's why we're going to have an adult at home. So younger siblings don't think, oh, goody, cookie dough, and then they eat it. Okay, I'm going to keep adding little by little. You can start to see it's starting to get more like dough. It's kind of crumbly, and don't worry about that yet. Okay, I might end up having to use all of my water. I'm going to go ahead and use it all. And I'm going to really give it a good mixing now. And I'm going to keep mixing it until those kind of dry areas kind of get incorporated. At one point, you might just want to stop and just use your hands. Using your hands is probably the best way. And I'm just kind of mushing it around so that I can pick up, taking my fingers, kind of pushing into it. So I'm trying to pick up all of that dry stuff down there at the bottom. All right, once it starts feeling like dough, like if it was still real crumbly, you could add a tiny bit more water. But mine is actually, it seems pretty good. I'm going to put my bowl aside. And now what you're going to need to do, and this is where you're working on your cutting board or your baking sheet, is you're going to fold it over and press it down. So this is called kneading. Fold it over, press it down. Fold it over, press it down. And I'm just going to keep doing that. And I'm going to do that for a good minute or two. This is kneading. Fold it over and press it down. And what this is doing is it's getting all the lumps and the bumps out of the dough, and it's allowing you to have a really nice dough to work with. This is feeling really good. It's a lot of fun. You can kind of pick up all the little crumbs now with your dough. It's a good way to keep things clean. You should be doing this in your kitchen, not in your bedroom. And I'm just going to keep folding it over and kneading it until it feels kind of like Play-Doh. Okay, I feel like that's pretty good. Now, this is a really big amount of dough, so I'm going to take a piece of it that I'm going to kind of work with, and then what I'm not working with, I'm going to get that Ziploc bag, and I'm going to put it in my Ziploc bag. If you squeeze the top but don't go all the way, it's still kind of open right there, and then you can squeeze all the air out and close it up. So salt dough will start drying out almost immediately. So if you keep it in a plastic bag, it'll stay good for a few days. After a few days, it might start kind of getting moldy. All right, so at this point, I have a ball of salt dough to work with, and on the next slide of this presentation, you will see a few different ways that you could use it.